If you've spent any time in the Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint fandom, you've probably seen people mention 49% Dokja and 51% Dokja. For someone who hasn't read ORV and you just want to understand the LARP, those numbers might seem random, but to readers, they represent the final choice Kim Dokja made after reaching the end of the story. Spoiler warning, if you haven't finished ORV novel, get the hell out of this video. If you don't care, let's LARP. To understand why those numbers carry so much weight, we have to return to the final scenario. After clearing the final scenario and breaking through the final wall, Kim Dokja finally learned the truth behind the world he had been trying to save. The Starstream continued to exist because someone was watching it. That existence was the oldest dream, the being whose dream allowed countless world lines and the stories within them to continue. However, the previous oldest dream had disappeared. Without someone taking over that role, the worlds would stop moving, and the people who had fought so hard to survive would be trapped in a frozen ending. Kim Dokja had reached the conclusion he always wanted. His companions were alive, the scenarios were over, and they finally had the chance to experience an ordinary life. The problem was that this ending needed someone to remain behind. Kim Dokja accepted the role of the oldest dream and stayed inside the subway, the place that the fourth wall described as the sanctum where the oldest dream sleeps. The train was no longer simply a train. The windows became a way to observe countless world lines, and every world required someone to continue watching over it. Kim Dokja could still see the people he saved. He could watch them move forward and live the lives they deserved, but he could no longer return to them. That was when he made the choice that created the 49% and 51% versions of himself. Kim Dokja knew that if he disappeared completely, his companions would eventually realize that the person who carried them through every scenario was gone. After everything they had experienced together, he couldn't leave them with that kind of ending, even though Kim Dokja is not a fan of happy endings. So he used the avatar skill he obtained through the 6th bookmark, using the understanding he gained from the 1863rd turn's Han Sooyoung. His original plan was to divide himself equally, creating a 50-50 split between the two versions. But the result was different. The avatar was created using 49% of his memories, while the Kim Dokja, who remained as the oldest dream, kept 51%. The difference was only 2%, but that small gap represented something very important. The fourth wall immediately questioned him about the uneven split. Why 49% though? Because it understood that the number wasn't simply an accident. Kim Dokja had always been someone who placed other people's happiness above his own, but this time, the split revealed a part of him that he tried to ignore. Even when he was giving someone else the life they deserved, he couldn't completely let go of his own memories. The missing 2% became both proof and a lie. It was proof because the Kim Dokja, who remained as the oldest dream, retained 51% of the memories. That meant he remembered his companions more than the avatar did. Even if nobody knew he still existed, he never forgot them. Those memories became his small act of atonement, the burden he chose to carry alone. But it was also a lie, because the difference was small enough to make the 49% Kim Dokja feel complete. He created a version of himself that could return to his companions, live alongside them, and experience the happy ending they had fought for. The avatar had nearly all the memories needed to believe he was the real Kim Dokja, never realizing that he was only a part of him. To everyone else, it looked like Kim Dokja had returned home safely, but the truth was that another part of him was still left behind. Kim Dokja understood that his decision was idiotic, immature, and selfish. He knew he was creating a version of himself who would let everyone move forward without knowing the truth. But he couldn't abandon the part of himself that wanted to remember them. When the avatar was separated from the original body, the connection between the two was completely cut due to separation of timelines. The 49% Kim Dokja gained his own free will and consciousness. He wasn't a puppet or an incomplete copy. He truly believed he was the original Kim Dokja who had returned home after ending the scenarios. For the companions, accepting him was never the difficult part. They had spent years fighting alongside this person. He remembered their struggles, their promises, and the moments they shared. The Kim Dokja who came back was the person who saved them, and they could feel that. Shin Yu-sung remembered the promise of eating pizza and drinking cola by the Han River. Lee Gil-young remembered the person who gave him a place to belong. Young Hee-won remembered the companion who fought beside her until the end. Those memories belonged to him. Those experiences belonged to him. For a while, they believed they had finally reached the ending Kim Dokja wanted, but Han Sooyoung noticed something that the others overlooked. At first, the changes seemed small. Kim Dokja started liking tomatoes. He became more absent-minded. He no longer talked about ways of survival the way he used to. To everyone else, those things were easy to dismiss. After everything they had been through, maybe Kim Dokja had simply changed after finally escaping the scenarios. But Han Sooyoung couldn't ignore it. For 13 years, Ways of Survival was the story that shaped Kim Dokja's entire existence. He was the person who had read every single chapter, remembered countless details, and used that knowledge to guide everyone through the scenarios. The Kim Dokja she knew could forget many things, but he would never forget that story. Then she noticed something something that felt impossible. Kim Dokja was forgetting parts of ways of survival. To anyone else, forgetting details from a novel with over 3,000 chapters would have been understandable. But this was Kim Dokja. The person she knew had carried that story with him for years. It was the one thing that remained with him when he had nothing else. So when he failed to remember something that should have been impossible for him to forget, Han Sooyoung began questioning what was standing in front of her. She wondered if the Kim Dokja beside them was an imposter. The others immediately rejected the idea. They asked him about their memories together, the promises they made, and the moments they shared throughout the scenarios. Kim Dokja answered. He remembered them. To everyone else, that was proof enough. But Han Sooyoung still couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. If this really was Kim Dokja, then why was something so important missing? Then another possibility appeared in her mind. The oldest dream had disappeared, yet this world continued to exist. If the world still needed someone to keep watching over countless world lines, then maybe Kim Dokja had done something similar to what the oldest dream had done before. What if this Kim Dokja is an avatar? Han Sooyoung was the only person among the companions who understood how the avatar skill worked. She knew that an avatar could carry memories and act as a separate existence. She decided there was only one way to find out. When her dagger struck Kim Dokja, she expected the truth to reveal itself. An avatar shouldn't bleed. That was the rule she understood. However, blood flowed from the wound. For a moment, it seemed like her suspicion was wrong. But even then, Han Sooyoung couldn't immediately dismiss the possibility. She knew that an avatar with a large amount of memories could become different. An avatar containing enough memories could even bleed like the original. The situation became even more confusing. The Kim Dokja standing before them was not a fake. He was Kim Dokja. Later, Yu Sang-ga eventually helped Han Sooyoung understand what had really happened. Kim Dokja had divided himself in two. One side became the person who returned to the world, living alongside his companions. The other side remained behind as the reader watching over everything. The 49% Kim Dokja carried the memories of their journey. He was still Kim Dokja. There was no point trying to decide which one was the real Kim Dokja. Just like there was no meaning in choosing the real Yoo Jung-hyuk among countless regressions, both sides were parts of the same person. But that wasn't what bothered Han Sooyoung. She wasn't trying to figure out who was real. What mattered was that another Kim Dokja was still missing. The Kim Dokja who remained beyond the final wall. The Kim Dokja who became the oldest dream. While the companions spent those months believing the scenarios were finally over, the 51% Kim Dokja never left the subway. He continued watching over countless world lines so they wouldn't come to a halt. Time passed differently there, and as he kept carrying the burden of the oldest dream, he slowly lost more and more of himself. Han Sooyoung understood why he chose that path. She knew Kim Dokja would always make that kind of decision if it meant protecting everyone else. That was exactly why she couldn't accept it. Kim Dokja had created a happy ending for everyone while leaving himself behind. Then another problem appeared. The 49% Kim Dokja's existence began to collapse. Because he was created through the Starstream's avatar skill, his body depended on the system that supported it. After the scenarios ended, that system began weakening. His wounds stopped healing properly. His body became unstable, and his blood started evaporating into story fragments. Lee Se-olwa eventually confirmed the truth. If he remained in that world line, Kim Dokja would disappear. The companions were now facing two problems at the same time. The Kim Dokja who lived beside them was fading away. The Kim Dokja who sacrificed himself was still trapped alone. This was the reason Project Capture the Squid began. It was not simply an attempt to find another version of Kim Dokja. The companions wanted to save the person standing in front of them while reaching the person who had been left behind. Their plan was to cross the final wall and bring the 51% Kim Dokja back. Taking the 49% avatar with them also had another purpose. He carried a fragment of the fourth wall, which was necessary to reach the subway where the original body remained. They believed that if the two halves were reunited, Kim Dokja could finally return completely. The companions wanted every part of him to come home. They wanted the Kim Dokja who experienced their journey with them, and the Kim Dokja who spent eternity protecting their world, to stop being separated. When they finally reached the subway, they found the 51% Kim Dokja who had carried the role of the oldest dream for countless years. He was no longer the same person they remembered. The burden had changed him, leaving him in a childlike state after sacrificing so much of himself. When the 49% avatar approached him, their connection activated. For one final moment, the avatar regained awareness. He looked toward Han Sooyoung and apologized. The companions believed this reunion would bring Kim Dokja back. They believed the missing pieces would finally return to where they belonged. But Kim Dokja's existence had been changed by everything he endured. The stories he carried had spread too far, and his identity could no longer return to the exact form they remembered. His existence scattered across countless world lines, continuing as new dreams. That is why 49% and 51% became such important numbers for ORV ORV readers. They represent the two sides of Kim Dokja's final choice. The 49% Kim Dokja was the person who returned to his companions and experienced the life he always wanted. The 51% Kim Dokja was the person who stayed behind because he wanted that life to exist. The companions never wanted to choose between them. They wanted Kim Dokja. So that's the tragedy behind 49% and 51% Kim Dokja. But now I'm curious, do you think the companions were selfish for trying to change his ending? Or were they right because Kim Dokja deserved to be saved too? Tell me what you think, because ORV endings are the kind of thing where everyone walks away with a different interpretation. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe for more ORV discussions.